What's going on, y'all? Nick, yeah. And I'm with my brother James from Enter Black Void. What's going on, James?
I'm good. How's everything? How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good, man. Doing very good. I'm excited for this video. As you guys could probably tell from the title and the thumbnail, this is called "Why Being a Monogamous Woman is a Waste of Time." So this is actually interesting because this is actually coming by way of um, this YouTuber, this woman to my, I guess the right of the screen, and she goes by the name of Call for Wisdom. I personally think it's a good channel. Um, you guys should definitely check it out. Call for Wisdom. But we're going to actually try to dissect her video real quick. Um, and before we dive in, I see some people already in the chat. Salute to you, my brother. Run a cloud. Salute and shalom to you, my brother. But yeah, we want to tackle this topic. Um, if you guys agree, please put it in the chat. If you disagree, please put it in the chat. But let's just be respectful. You get what I'm saying? Let's be an intelligent people where we can have open dialogue. We don't gotta agree on every single thing, right? But let's have an intelligent conversation concerning this topic of monogamy versus polygyny. And I do want to make it very clear that I'm not advocating for polygamy, which is just an umbrella term for all forms of plural relationships. I'm only advocating for polygyny in particular, which is, one man with multiple women. I believe that's biblically sound. What's your take on it before we go into the video, James? Do you agree, disagree?
So, my take on it, I think polygyny is not for every man, right? Because if you're reckless, if you're foolish, if you're unwise, unlearned, if you can't even satisfy the needs of one woman, I don't think you can do it with multiple women. So, while I am not against polygyny, and I think it has a place in society and it could be a good solution, I just want to make clear that it is not mandatory for every man to practice it
Hmm.
because you have to be, to me, morally sound, right? You have to follow principles. Without principles, you are doomed to fail. And that's with everything in life. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you started off there about being morally sound and I think the operative word here is mandatory. And in your case, you said that it is not mandatory. I think a lot of times when people have the conversation concerning monogamy and polygyny, that people almost assume as if we're advocating that you got to participate in it. And
Right.
that's couldn't be any further from the truth. I mean, if you have the means, or if you just have the wherewithal, right? Like if you just,
Yeah.
like you said, morally sound, spiritually sound to guide multiple
Mhm.
women, then hey, go for it. But it's not mandatory. And I
Right.
think if we could have this conversation as a people, right?
Mhm.
I think we can actually benefit our community because I do not believe monogamy has helped us as a people, black people, all types of people, but especially, us colored folks. I don't think monogamy and to on the flip side, the world would try to make it seem as if monogamy is mandatory. Like you have to only be monogamous. And I think that is dangerous. I think if you educate yourself and know that you have an option, then by all means exercise that option. But to only say you have to be monogamous or else you somehow breaking the law or you somehow being spiritually
Mhm.
wicked or some shape fashion shape or form, I think that's what's also deceptive. But go ahead, you had something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to say that monogamy can help certain individuals, but and this is where I think us as a community, we need to like actually go inside the hood of our culture and actually look at what's there in the engine, right? The metaphysical engine, and find out, okay, how can we practice it in a rightful manner, right?
Yeah.
Because because I want to say, like, if we're gonna come at it from a biblical perspective or African's perspective or the way our people used to have understand it, right? We have to understand that marriage is help. The man helps the woman helps the man. It's about legacy. Uriah was content with one wife. Abraham was content with one wife, right? It's not until some people may be content with two wives, three wives, four, right? But I think these things need to go on a case by case basis as to understanding the needs of the individual family themselves. So that way polygyny can make sense and is practical, right? I also want to say that it's not to the benefit of the man, it's more so the benefit of the women themselves. And it kind of seems like, many women are listening. They probably might think, no, that's BS. You think it's about all your sexual gratification, but no. If you're gonna live in a patriarchal society, and if the man has resources, it is to the benefit of the women themselves. The the gathering and structuring of women themselves and understanding the family, right? So that's what I want to say. And then we could go into deep, but you
Yeah.
could go ahead.
Yeah, well said. So let me actually play this video for you guys. Please let us know if we're coming in clear. Please put it in the chat if the volumes are coming in clear, as well as the volume of the actual video being played itself. All right, you guys. But let's actually play it. And if you guys are liking the video, like, comment, subscribe. But let's get right into this video.
Welcome to Call for Wisdom. We're going to find out why being a modern monogamous woman is a waste of time. Total waste of time for me, maybe for you too, if you're a sister. Here we go. Let's review that concept, okay?
So I don't have to appease to anyone anymore. I just appease to myself and what brings me joy. Like, I'm not a selfish person. I've always been really giving. But it comes to a point where it's just like you're tearing one person in too many directions. Like, we just can't be everything to everybody. And especially if you come from a background like me, where, your childhood pretty much burnt you out. And it's like, you get to adulthood, now you got kids, you got a husband. It's like, look, I still have to go back and work on all this stuff from the past. So between that, having a job, having children, trying to manage the sex drive of another human being, a man at that, it becomes too much. It honestly becomes.
And I had zoomed in the video because I don't know if you noticed, the woman is actually, she's actually in a monogamous relationship, and she said right in the center of the screen, she actually had put marriage is too much. So she's actually saying that even in a monogamous, standpoint, it's too much of a burden on one woman. Let's go before we dive in, because she's gonna play another video, which I think is important.
There's a pattern out there, if you didn't notice, of women complaining about having too much on their plate as in the relationships. And modern women now want to replace that with getting out of the relationship, because being a modern monogamous woman, they see this as a burden. And I kind of have to agree. Realistically, I don't think we were intended to be monogamous. And holding on to this concept and still being modern being anti-feminine, like not traditional, modern being feminist minded, modern being I want my own way, entitled, strong independent woman thing. Here's another one. There's so many on internet. There's so many to choose from. It's kind of like
and OS Martha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but you put, what about how the wife feels about it? What if she is against it? Then her feelings matter, because a woman's feelings matter, and emphasis on the woman's feelings matter. What you're saying is facts, that a woman's feelings do matter. I'm not one to believe that as a man, just because you're the head, that you should totally dismiss what your wife has to say concerning the matter. However, I think it's very important for us to understand that despite what we feel, both man and woman, we're not talking about feelings here. Um, Feelings should be considered, but they should not be, in my personal opinion, the foundation by which we make decisions. We can't base our decision making on feelings and feelings alone. And then also too, from a biblical standpoint, all of us were born in a society where we are kind of far removed from our heritage to some degree. So I have to learn about this as well. I grew up thinking to myself, hey, it's all about monogamy. But I had to put my feelings aside to actually understand that, hold on, is what Nick thinks that's important? Or what about what the Most High has to say regarding this? What does nature has to say regarding this topic? Did you want to respond as well before we go in further?
Yeah, I want to respond to Martha. I actually agree with her. Women's feelings should matter, right? So in this modern context, have to be more responsible.
So I think
I don't think women mind polygamy, or as long as men are. Yes, I don't think women mind polygyny as long as the men are honest about it. In the beginning of the relationship, this is the problem. Men promise monogamy, and then women expect that, right? And then men have side chicks, and then baby mothers on the side, or get other women pregnant. So this is the problem. Had you told the woman from the beginning you want to be, women wouldn't feel lied to, right? Because now the ball is in their court and they know what they're dealing with. This is the problem with modern dating today. So remember, the woman's feeling does matter as well as the man. It doesn't make sense remember, you cannot be equally unyoked. And we keep using it for principles and biblical principles, but it happens with everything. If I'm monogamous and you're polygynous, it's not going to work. Find somebody else who has the same mental understanding as you.
Yeah.
This is a match made in heaven. This is perfect.
Yeah. Well said. All I will say is that you somewhat the main crux of your message was understood, but you cut in and out just a tad bit. I don't know if it's the connection. I'm gonna play the video, but see if you could log out and then come back in. But I'm gonna play this second part of the video.
Hard because there's so many good ones to choose from, but let me give you another one here. And I'll show you, if you go on TikTok on these things, you'll see all the time women complaining about their relationships.
In the past, on a video where I say that marriage is not beneficial to women, I've had a couple women come and say, well, it's beneficial to me because I don't pay bills. You think it's beneficial, but it's still not. The only way him paying all the bills is beneficial is if he can afford to pay somebody to cook and clean. If you're doing the cooking and the cleaning, then you're doing the cooking and the cleaning for free room and board. If somebody came to me and said, hey, you're going to cook and clean and take care of my kids, and in exchange, I'm going to give you a place to stay, I would say, you know what, maybe if I was a college student, that might be a good plan, but I'm going to pass on that because that sounds like hell, especially when I know how much chefs make, cleaners, nannies, etc., especially when I know how much they make a year, and you want me to do it for $3.99 for a roof over my head. Nah, no. You better be a real housewife. You're going to lunch. You are taking girls trips. You are going shopping. You have a nanny. You have a chef. You have a driver. But don't come up in my comment section telling me that marriage is benefiting you because you are the free labor.
Wow. You see how this
It's benefiting you if
wow.
he's paying you for every single job title you hold, and he's paying you the cost of living for each of those job titles. But it's not beneficial in exchange for room and board.
Okay. So let's
So I spoke first last time. What's your thoughts concerning that? What
I
the woman
think
just said.
I think her assessment is foolish because if you're single, you're going to be cooking and cleaning for yourself for free anyway. So why not do it for a person that you love? Why not do it for children? So the idea that you're some kind of slave, that you're not going to be working, you're going to be working either way, whether you're single or not single. But at least when you're not single, you have support from the husband who's there with you. So this idea that you're doing this for free, hello, you're doing it for free regardless right now as a single woman. You got to clean your bathroom. You got to cook for yourself. You got to clean your house. You do that for free. You do that for free. So, but why not? You see that this is the mentality here. They want to paint marriage as slavery, marriage as bondage, but they're forgetting you're not in this world alone when you're married. You have help. This is the problem. This is the foolishness that modern women have. They don't realize, regardless, you're going to work. But when you have extra help, it makes the work lighter.
Yeah. Well said. Before I go in, I see Angela Neighbors. Bless you, sis. You said that is crazy. I agree with you 100%. And then Run a Cloud, you said, from my understanding, marriage is selfless, and these videos she's playing sound selfish. You hit it right on the nail, bro. That's my assessment from what those two videos were saying. Because the thing that's so odd is like, this is my problem. If you prefer monogamy, by all means, that's you. But don't present it as if that's the only way. Or in this case, she's advocating for the opting out of marriage altogether, which I think is highly detrimental for a lot of people. You see, you talked about it, James, where you said that you're not put in this world by yourself. I mean, literally from the beginning of time, if you want to take the Bible approach, it said that it's not good that man should be alone. And yes, he was talking about Adam in particular, but I think that could be taken both male or female. We were not put in this earth to operate on our own. We need to work together. And this is why it's very dangerous when you start preaching to young girls out there that, oh man, you don't need marriage, you don't need a man, you don't need all this other stuff. Because what ends up happening is that, you know, you said it, they're gonna have to cook and clean and do all this stuff regardless. And then this is what's so sad, because that a lot of these women, right, especially if they single mothers, right, they end up having to outsource these jobs anyway. They end up having to go pay the babysitter, go to the nanny, whatever, to take care of your child. You end up going to the restaurant to go cook your meals. You end up going to the farmer's market because they the ones that's producing their food, and you couldn't be home and attend to your garden. Like, you're gonna have to outsource all these things anyway. And this is the thing that's so crazy. That's what I'm saying. It's like they put this construct before us where it's like, oh yeah, polygyny is totally off. This idea of people working together. But the sad reality is that you are still partaking in women helping you out anyway. It's just you paying them money. And because they don't live with you, you looking at it as if that's okay, but it's literally the same thing. It takes a village, right? And the sad thing, you did this, right, James? And I know exactly what you're talking about. When you outsource all these jobs, that's money coming out of your pocket. You're not getting ahead. You're not building no type of legacy. You're not actually benefiting yourself financially. So she wants to make it say, oh, you're paying for room and board. Like, she's trying to minimize us coming together as man and wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is extremely, it's sad, the mentality. You know what I'm saying? But let's actually go into something. And I see, bless you, House of Lamar, shalom, shalom to you. Let's actually go more, because she's about to start cooking, y'all. And the stuff she mentions is real powerful. Let's check this out.
let's just dissect that a little bit. And I want to actually go through her twice, you know. But first of all, welcome to Call for Wisdom. Welcome, my sisters and my brothers, and all the rest of you who are joining me here today. I'm so happy to be back. My name is Deborah, and this is a Bible study for believing women. And if you're not a believer in Yeshua and Jesus, and you don't really believe in the Bible, then you're still welcome because I'm still talking to you. And if you're female, come along. This is for sisters. And I really want to talk to my sisters and kind of continue the conversation I had the last episode about my story and my journey into why I'm polygynous, why I no longer and never have actually identified as being monogamous, and why I think monogamy right now is suited for modern women better than polygyny, and why if you're a modern monogamous woman, you're going to fail. Your relationships, generally speaking, are going to fail. That's why 80% of divorces right now are initiated by women, because majority of women in marriage right now in the West are in monogamous relationships. And listen to these two ladies, what they had in common is that they're complaining about their marriages. Both of them are divorced. They're complaining about not the fact that the men are cheating, nothing like that. Cheating being, they think monogamy again, having another woman is cheating. So, not because of that. Actually, a lot of them are saying that they had good men, but they don't like the fact that the burden of being a wife is put solely on them in a monogamous relationship. They have to cook, they have to raise the children. That's a lot. You have to clean the house, you have to give sexual you keep up with the man sexually in his desires. They have to also be there to regulate the children's emotions and help with the family schedules of things. And if they have a business or no business and they have to work a second job, that's a lot of pressure on one woman. One woman. I like to put it like this. Like let's imagine monogamy being like a tree. And if you notice in my thumbnail, I had an image of a tree, right, my sisters? So let's imagine monogamy being like a tree. I grew up in a tree farm with beautiful trees, beautiful oak tree or beautiful mango tree in the tropics, right? The the main part of the tree, the um, stem of the tree, the main part of the tree is the husband. He is the vine. He is the core of the tree trunk. He is that. That is the tree, the head of the tree. And the wife is the branches in my analogy, the branches. And the produce of being attached to the tree, right, makes the branches able to produce fruits. Correct? So here we are in the image. I had a couple mango trees. I mean, mango fruits with the branches. So let's say it represents the children, if you can bear biological children, or it represents the income that you can bring into the family. The fruits represent your fruits of the spirit, your love, your joy, your peace, your long suffering and kindness, the things you do for other orphans and widows and sisters and people in need, the working for the kingdom. You become fruitful, you become useful to the branch, to the tree as a whole, because you're bearing fruits, and to Yah, because we're commanded to be fruitful, and multiply. So Yah wants us to create more fruits. This is our command. So why would I waste my time in a system that limits the amount of fruits I can produce as a woman? Whereas if I myself accept the reality that Yah has given men the option to be polygynous, able to have more than one wife, that's what polygyny means. Biblical polygamy means the ability to have a man to take on more than one wife. It is legal, it is not against the law. Now you can look at my other resources that I have in my channel explaining all that, or go to Digging in the Word, where Brother Mike Allen, he's my cover as well, explains all that, and we go into the the reasons why polygamy is not against Torah, and it's actually very much an option, a righteous option for men. But this video is not about that. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just saying that I accept it, right? I've already gone past that with you all, my sisters. We accept it. It's there. It's an option. And you, my sisters, also, I'm encouraging you to embrace being polygynous in your mentality, whether or not your husband is actually there yet. I encourage you to drop the monogamy only standards in your head and the delusion, because it is a waste of time. It is messing around with your psyche on so many levels. So, we're going to go through a few of the reasons why I think this is happening and why I think it's a waste of time. Now, according to these ladies over here, they've already admitted that being married, period, especially in monogamy, is overburdening to modern women. It was also for my grandparents and my ancestors before a job. Being married, yeah, being a helpmate, but it wasn't such a bit of a burden because they had embraced polygyny. Officially, they were not shaming the women who bore with them children for their husbands. They had more respect for them than we do right now. They didn't call them the side chick. They didn't call them the housebreaker. They didn't call them the 3 or 4. They didn't give them any names. In my country where I grew up, the other women usually came in through nannies, being the nannies, or another family that the grandparent had, my grandparents had on the side. And these families would work together for the good of the whole household of the man.
So I would like to stop right there because I think she brought up something that was interesting. Like she said that a lot of times these other women will come in the form of like nannies and all this other stuff, and they weren't being shamed, right? And I think the reason why I wanted to stop right here is because what I find interesting is that here we have a concept where polygyny was always there in actuality, right? Like especially back in the day, obviously biblical times, they operated in that manner all the time. You didn't ever see the shaming of women. Like I would love for anybody, if they please produce me the verse, produce me one verse where you see a woman like shaming another woman or like belittling them because they are somehow the second. Yeah. And then the thing is, a lot of times people like to always harp on, oh well, Leah and Rachel didn't get along, and it's just like there's many contexts to that. There's so many contexts. I mean, they never want to talk about the fact that Jacob was literally deceived into marrying Leah, right? Like he was working 7 years for one wife, and then he got deceived into another. So it's like everyone's situation is not that, right? But I say that to say where it's like, these women who come and they think that, well, I could do everything for my man, right? Like I could cook, I could clean, I could take care of the children, I could do all these titles, all these jobs. But it's just like even back then, we didn't see women doing that. Like a lot of y'all moms, especially if you're, of the older generation, they had, again, the nanny, the babysitter, all this other stuff, other women that was helping out. Right. And they may not have been in the form of necessarily polygyny, as in like the father was covering them. But I mean, there were other women that was helping you out. I know even for us, our moms all the time when she was going out to work, making money. I mean, we were there at the babysitter. Now, it wasn't polygyny from the standpoint of the babysitter was married to our father. But what we're saying is like there was always multiple women that were helping out in the rearing up of the child or just guiding the house as a whole. Like that responsibility was not put on just one woman. But what's your take?
Well, I also think that polygyny will help the single mother crisis reduce it down tremendously, right? Because now we're talking about every woman having a man, having a husband, right? So now you don't have to be single. Women are naturally social creatures. Any other women to talk to. I really like her analogy of the tree, of how the tree's trunk is the man and the branches is the women and the fruits is the children. That's a good aspect to it as well, right? That's a great analogy. But yeah, it's we've always been a community as a people, and this stuff is still practiced in Africa and certain parts of the Caribbean to this day, right? It's still functioning and still working. So we could practice it 2 ways, where the man is the sober and he's provided for all his wives because he simply has the means to. Or in this modern context, I think since women are working, all these people the man and the woman pull their resources together and they could buy a better apartment, a better house, a better land, a better household, right? Because if one income is not enough, two income is good, three income is great, four income is even better, right? Is this more helping hands? It's a communal setting within this singular family. So, and many people will stay afloat. If you think about it, especially during economic hard times, imagine if, you know, everybody is pulling their resources together, you know, these women that are complaining, because the thing is, right, we've been socialized to accept monogamy as the only form of relationship that can work. And this is what causes the burnout when there could be other forms of relationship, especially polygyny, which can be a benefit to them because now the workload that you think is too heavy is now shared amongst the household and it won't be heavy. One person could clean, another person could cook. You don't have to do it by yourself. One person clean, another person cook, another person take care of the kids while the man is working. So all of these things happen and they functional, right? So yeah, our ancestors, I think, were very wise and smart in that sense. I let my
Right.
plane.
I have two things. I have two things I want to address. I'm gonna get to yours, Angela Neighbors, because I see your comment. But Steve Sheridan says, "Funny how Hebrew Israelite religion like to focus on everything but the good news of Jesus." Just to address this real quick, for one, the idea, the notion of Hebrew Israelite religion, I don't ascribe to that. I don't ascribe to it. I don't ascribe to any religion. Um, Now, Israelites, they are a group of people. There is a lifestyle associated with that group of people. So that's what I ascribe to. But in terms of like the religion and the whole religious aspect, if you really want to talk about the good news, my brother, and I don't take no offense to it. So I hope when I address this, you're not taking offense to what I'm saying. But when it comes to just the good news, I mean, the good news, the gospel, the message, right? Hence why I called my channel The Message Sent, was simply repent for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Now, if you're gonna repent, I know you have something to say, James, but let me just say this one thing. If you're gonna repent, that means you need to turn away from your sins and turn back to Yah, right? I mean, sins is transgression of the law. We have been taught for years that certain things is sin when it was never a sin. One of those things is the practice of polygyny. If you've been taught all your life that if you engage in polygyny, that's somehow a sin, and you read the book and you find out that it's not a sin, then that's one way we can repent in our minds, to stop judging other people who are practicing something that's biblically lawful. And then for you now, because of your rearing up, your social construct, you starting to impose rules and regulations, because that's actually the epitome of religion. If you look up behind the word of religion, it simply means to bind. That's what it means. It means to bind. That's the etymology. So you're binding people by imposing some religious rule or obligation on them, in this case, monogamy. And that's not what it is. There's nothing in that book that promotes monogamy as the only way of life.
Not
So
only,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Not only that, I think Steve is short-sighted in his statements because it's not about Hebrew Israelites. The topic is monogamy and polygyny. Polygyny is something that's practiced many, many years, not just by Hebrew Israelites themselves. We've got like 3,000 tribes in Africa that still practice this stuff, right? We've got places perhaps in Asia that still practice this stuff. We have these American culture that practice this stuff illegally,
Right.
erroneously. So the idea that, and besides, if Steve actually read his Bible, he would see that Jesus was liking himself to a bridegroom that married 5 virgins. So
Right.
Steve, and even the Most High, if he wants to take it that far, Oholaba and Ahola, right? I forget the names, but
Yeah, that's
he
it.
said those 2 were mine.
Right.
So I think Steve is short-sighted. I think he should focus more on the topic and not digress or divert the subject, right? because it's not about Hebrew Israelites. The topic is on polygyny, how we can practice it.
Agreed. Angela Neighbors, you said something beautiful. So all the women work too? Very beautiful question. So I've seen places where people try to preach that, you know, the women don't have to work, that the men are the only ones that need to work. And I would say this from the Bible I read. Maybe you guys can show me. I don't ever see any of that rhetoric out there. I don't see any verse that says a woman should not work. I've never seen that. And on the contrary, and I'm not coming against you, Angela. I know you ask. I know your spirit. I know you're asking the question. I'm just for the sake of speaking to everybody, right? I've never seen that verse. The Proverbs 31 woman that every woman wants to champion themselves to be. They said that she had servants under her. They said she considers a field and she buys it. How's she gonna buy it if she didn't make no money? She conducts business. This Proverbs 31 woman. So I think, you know, I honestly believe women, ironically, the women who claim to be followers of Yeshua, right? You're selling yourself short. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way we as men presented the gospel and the word in the first place. Like we try to make these women these docile creatures and try to, you know, belittle them and try to make them seem as if they can't do anything outside of just cooking and cleaning and being on their back and making babies. No, you women, you are very capable. You are very intelligent. So to simply say that we don't have to work and the reason why I'm saying that in particular, because I think what that promotes also is a version of polygyny where this man has to be rich and these women don't have to do nothing whatsoever. And that's the only way polygyny can function. And I don't see that. And I want to say one last thing. If you guys ever read the book of Tobit, it is very clear when Tobit lost his eyesight, there's a clear verse. I'll let you guys do your homework, where they said that his wife actually took up woman's work because Tobit could not work. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about. Whereas this like woman, y'all can work, y'all can be a financial blessing and produce financial fruit for your family.
So
I get that, tackle that.
I want to speak to Angela. It's a question, right? And Angela's question is fair. And I think with wisdom, we need to understand flexibility. Flexibility. Now, right? I think it's if the man could support all his wives, then he could be the sole breadwinner. His wives want to work. I don't see that as a problem, right? He could be a millionaire and still want to own a.
So, James, it seems like your connection is just a
if
tad
the
bit
man is
off.
not rich and the woman want to be with him. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it seems like you sometimes you cut in and out. It sounds like you cut in and out sometimes. But try again.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna come back in.
All right, so we're gonna wait for James to come back in, y'all. But yeah, Angela Neighbors, you said first you mentioned that I'm not easily offended, my brother. I'm just asking a question to provoke thought and conversation. And I knew your spirit. That's why I said what I said. Also, you mentioned I think women should work. We're gonna wait for James to come back. But you said I think women should work as well, especially when they are gifted in certain areas. Why suppress them? I agree.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think it depends on the household, how flexible it is. It doesn't have to be rigid. Like my household doesn't have to be like the same household as Nick. It doesn't have to be the same household as Jonathan. It doesn't have to be the same house as David, right? Like for me, I don't mind women working. If they want to find work, then they find work, right? It's not going to stop me from working because work doesn't have to be exterior work outside the home. It could be work inside the home. You can fix the garden if you want to, if that's something, a project you want to do. You can, I don't know, if you want to work, you could work. If you want to work full time, I see no problem with that. If you say, you know what, I don't want to work full time, I want to work part time, I see no problem with that, right? So I think it's flexible. If you decide not to work, and I, so this is where I think women, I think we can be more flexible, especially in this modern time, because then it could alleviate, it could just be a harmonious, synergetic atmosphere where everything works functionally as long as the primary goal is met, which is the family cohesion, right? So flexibility in this situation, right?
Yeah, I love what you say before we get back to the video. First, I want to say, Nathaniel Nelson, bless you. I want to give you a shout out in particular because I actually saw this video when you posted it on your Facebook. So I'm glad you posted that video because I think it's edifying all of us right now. So bless you, my brother. But I love what you said. You mentioned flexibility. I think a lot of times the problem with religion too is that you have like these religious leaders and they preach in such a way where a lot of it is almost like cookie cutter. Like you only a man if you do it my way, and they try to put everybody in a box. And that's the problem with religion. Is like you're right. You said it. Like your house is not my house is not Jonathan's house, etc., etc. Like do what works for you and stop allowing people to judge you. And this is what I mean, where it's just like, even going back to Steve Sheridan, right? Like Yeshua said, he that is set free shall be free indeed. We actually hoping that with this understanding that this will create a level of freedom within you because you actually understand that you have the option. Stop putting yourself in a narrow-minded box where I have to only do this thing. And then people end up, if you ever met with that type of temptation, which I hope that's not the case, but if you present yourself like, oh girl, I'm monogamous, I will never cheat on you, da da da, and then you find yourself fighting against your nature and you end up being tempted in that area, you're gonna end up being in bondage. Why? Not because your desire for this other woman is wrong to begin with, but more so because you created this religious dogma in your mind where I can only be with one person, and that's how you presented it to your wife. So as you said earlier on, James, is that if he ends up cheating, I don't think women are even mad per se that they desire other women. Is that they came from the beginning claiming that I'm a one woman guy, and like this is crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the lie. It's almost like a very sophisticated form of catfishing, right? But instead of a visual catfish, it's a personality catfish or a character catfish. You say you do this, but then you do the other thing. Now you become a hypocrite, and this is where women kind of feel disappointed. They feel disrespected. You see, but they would respect you more had you been honest from the beginning, because now they see he's a man of his word. He's a man of integrity. He's not going to lie to me, because this is such a sensitive topic in today's society, right? Imagine walking up to a modern day woman and saying, I'm a polygynist, right? They might throw a fit, they might get angry, but guess what? You see? They would never call you a liar. So this is it's imperative for men to be men.
Ooh.
Say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't mince your words, because this is how you garner respect from women, right? Another thing too, I want to say, and this is wisdom for all the men out there. Now, if you want to take a biblical route, do not multiply wives unto yourselves. Now, this means do not take too many wives. And this is something that needs to be talked about, right? Now, I am not a prophet. I'm not a priest. I'm not, you can't say I operate in that office. right? But there is wisdom in understanding the limit and understanding your role and your capacity. Understand your strengths and your capacity. I do not think men should exceed 6 or 7 wives. I do not think. I think that's the cutoff. I honestly think that's the cutoff. League have the cutoff at 4, right? But what I'm trying to say is don't go crazy. In Isaiah, it says there will be 7 wives that come on in that day. There will be 7 wives who want to be married to one man. And I'm paraphrasing. Oh, they'll have their own, they'll have their own work. They'll have their own things, right? And you could correct me, Nick, and read the verse if you want to. But these women have everything except for the name of marriage, the title of marriage.
Right.
Doesn't that sound like doesn't that sound like modern day women? They have their own clothes, they pay their own bills, they have their own cars, their own their finances, they have everything except for the marriage title. But they still being side chicks. They have no problems with being side chicks. They have no problems being 304s. They have no problems with these other titles except for the wife title.
Yeah. Nah, you speaking facts. You speaking facts. Angela Neighbor says that's because men will not be brave enough. Man. You see, it falls back on you. That's because men will not be brave enough to actually tell a woman they are interested. Excuse me. They are interested in that they may have interest in other women as well. And you are absolutely right, Angela Neighbor. This is what I'm saying. A lot of times weak men, they always want to blame the women. Like, the women, they don't want to accept it. No, man, you are the one that's the issue. You weren't brave enough to simply tell your wife that you are not monogamous. And here's the thing, even if you said that doesn't mean you're going to partake in polygyny anyway, right? Like, you shouldn't force polygyny just because you are interested in it. The same way you shouldn't force monogamy. Like, if a relationship, if 2 people are not meant to walk together, then don't force it. But again, at least be brave enough to understand that this is something that you have the capacity, the ability to do if it so comes your way. But for the sake of time, I do want to continue because she's going to keep cooking, y'all. So again, this is Call for Wisdom. So please support that channel by this sister, Deborah. But let's keep going.
And because we shared duties back then with housekeeping, tending the garden, teaching the children, tending to the man's needs, we had a lot more time personally to do more things that are specific to our own talents and to our own calling. Because I gave you the analogy of the tree, okay? The man is the tree. The women in his life are the branches. Now, monogamy has the man limited to one branch. You can only have one woman. And out of the one woman, the woman has a limited capacity to bear fruits. And I would say that one of the reasons why she has a limited capacity, limited being the average woman has 2, well, now we're in minus, right? In the modern day, we are not even having children at all. But back in the day, you used to have 2, and then sometimes 3. That's it, right? And if you have 4, 5, 6 more, that's abnormal. That's not normal. And on top of that, it brings a lot of stress on the branch, like all these kids on one tree branch. And how healthy can the overall tree be if the tree it only has one branch? One branch is getting the sunlight, one branch is getting the nutrients, but also not there to have any shade from anybody else. The other branches offer support. The other branches offer shade in a tree. If you see a tree in nature with only one branch and a few little fruits, well, think, well, what's wrong with that tree? That looks odd. It's not even in nature to see a tree with one branch and only a few little fruits. I live in the tropics. If you see that, You think that tree is sick. That is something wrong with that tree, because trees were meant to bear fruit by having more than one branch bear fruit. And having more than one branch pulls up the nutrients through the soil, and it feeds to each other, and they shade each other, and they actually help pollinate the fruits of each other, and they help tend to each other. And so, just like in a polygynous marriage, more than one wife offers support, offers shade, offers encouragement to bear fruit. Oh, it's a season to do fruit, be fruitful. And that is the command. That is the command that Yah gave both Adam and Eve: be fruitful. The analogy suits polygyny, not monogamy. In nature, it is obvious. Fruit trees have many branches, many fruits. And so in the image you saw, I noticed that the man had two wives and some children at the back. And these children themselves will multiply and have children of their own. And it's not just about having children, like I said. It's also about being productive, financially productive. Like, look at this, sisters. If you're a single sister listening to me right now and you're working for the boss man who is not your husband, because you ain't got no husband, you are being fruitful for a man that's not covering you. You are being fruitful and wasting your days, your hours in exchange for cash. Now, let's say you made $20 an hour, or let's just put it in US dollars. Let's say you made 1,000 US today. On average, that's probably pretty good, right? 1,000 US today for your 8 hours of work to this man that's not your husband. He gave you the cash. He wasted 8 hours of your time. You didn't invest anything for you. You invested in him. And now let's say I told you that tomorrow you're going to die, or 3 days from now you're going to die. Would you continue working for him for $1,000 an hour, or would you go do something else with the last 3 days of your life? You probably want to do something else with your last 3 days of your life than go to work with $1,000. Because what's the use of having $3,000 more in the bank when you're going to die in 3 days? We instinctively know that our time is more valuable than the money. We know that. Yet we boast about it as women, single women, about the bank, about having the money. And it is a waste of your bloody time. Having the purse, having the car, having the apartment, having all these material things. But you cannot redeem your time. You cannot get the time back. You've wasted the years doing things that are not going to last eternity. And you're not in the functional role that you were created to be, right? And when you do that, you're wasting your time. So modern women, we end up being very frustrated because we have been sold a bunch of lies and we believe the lies. And then on top of that, we think that marriage is a burden because we try to take on all this on our own. So these two women in the beginning were complaining about the whole task of expectations of women, and they don't think that marriage is worth it anymore. At best, they go on their own. Ironically, is that when they go on their own, they're still going to hire somebody else to do the same roles because all of them are single mothers, and they'll still need the daycare, and they'll still need to go to work for another boss man, and they'll still need the restaurant to provide food when they're too busy to eat, and they'll still need the farmer to go farm it because they can't do any gardening themselves. I mean, we're outsourcing other women called wives, wasting our time working in in the field that's not even ours. It doesn't belong to our household. It's another man's. What a bloody waste of time. Being a modern woman and monogamous is a waste of time. You need to grow up, my sisters.
I'm going to stop here, but I want to touch on something because she keeps mentioning the theme, right? Waste of time, waste of time. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, redeem the times because the days are evil. Like, you know, again, there is something that's being preached, right? Which is in this case monogamy. And what I really loved about the analogy that she was bringing forth, she was saying that the different branches provide shade for other branches. And I was just like, man, this is such a perfect analogy because it's just like, think about the concept of women actually helping each other out. And knowing that each branch produced fruit of their own, like how much better would it be? You see, again, if there's women in this chat, if you have multiple children, please chime in. How difficult was it to tend to multiple children, right? And you still had to cook, and you still had to clean, And you still had to, after a long day of dealing with all of this, your man comes home, drops his suitcase, hey baby, let's make some love. And now you got to find the strength in it to try to open up to this man. It is a lot of stress on that woman. And this is what I mean is like, you see, a lot of times women will try to delude themselves, right? And they will try to say, oh no, I could do all these things, right? And it's like, no, you cannot. You cannot. And that's not an attack on you, but it's a reality. Neither do I want to put that burden on you because I actually don't think it's fair. It's not fair to put the burdens of. We always say this: being a mom is a full-time job. It's an all-day job, right? We always say that. So why are we not putting two and two together? Could you imagine from the time your baby wakes up and starts crying, your wife, the woman, has to tend to that child the whole entire day, and that she has no time to be for herself. No time. Brothers, can y'all chime in? The brothers who have wives, have y'all seen your wives work? Have you seen your wives work? I guarantee you, you will appreciate your wife to a greater capacity. You know, me, this is my first crack at things. So you could say, oh, Nikki Young, I agree with you. When I see my wife, there's a lot of things that I expected out of her in the beginning that I don't even put that burden anymore. I'm so dead serious. There was things where I want this house to be spotless. I want this. I want that. And the thing that's crazy, when my son came into the picture, there's times I literally, if my wife is here, she could attest to it. I literally have to force her to stop working because I'm just like, yo, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. Sit down. Don't even work no more. I just want you to relax because she's just constantly in work mode. It's not healthy. Sit down and relax. The only time they have for themselves and when children are in the mix is when the children is napping. And guess what? Again, for all the fellas that actually know about marriage, when your child is napping, what is your wife doing? Please put it in the chat. What's the answer?
Sleeping too.
She's sleeping too, because that's the only time of rest you got. That's what I'm saying. It is a full-time job. And you putting all this pressure on her and you expecting her to operate in her full capacity in all these different arenas, it is not fair. And now when you have somebody that tries to approach this thing with some level of scriptural integrity, honesty, this is nothing rooted in lust whatsoever. When you present polygyny as a viable option, there is all this kickback, and everybody just glossing over all the benefits that we just mentioned. But what you say, James?
No, she really broke it down. Like, these women are making their bosses rich. They are work, like, whether you like it or not, whether you're married to a physical person or you're married to a hypothetical figure, which is your boss, or like a entity, which is a corporation, you're still working. Like it's like life doesn't stop. You're still working. Either you benefit somebody else or you benefit yourself, right? But regardless, you still got to work. It's either you work for somebody else or you work for yourself, but you're still working, right? It's either you work for your husband or for your boss, but you're still working. So I'm glad this woman kind of like dispelled that myth that, and she really broke it down into perspective, because a lot of women that are stay-at-home wives, right? Typically, right, you work in the morning, and if your child is old enough, you can send them off to school and you can stay at home, watch Judge Judy, watch Judge Mathis, pick up the child, come back home. So you see what I'm saying? But if you're working 9 to 5 at the work, you only have lunch break. That's it. Right? And then you still probably gotta pick up the children because you're a single mom. and do their homework, right? But if you were married and you wanted to entertain that lifestyle of being a stay-at-home mom, at a certain yes, the initial beginning stages of raising that child may be difficult, right? But when it comes to a certain age, the child is off to school, and you have like, let's say 9 to like 3 or 9 to 2 to rest, to chill, to relax. And another thing too, this whole idea of cleaning, you could we wait in my household, we clean once a week. It wasn't like every day like these women are making it seem, right? We clean like once a week for the whole house, entire house, right? We did laundry when the laundry basket was full. It wasn't like every day. Our mom, when she cooked, it wasn't like every single day. It was like every other day or every other 3 days, right? So because we just had a big family. So we had every other day we ate leftovers, whatever she cooked. So it wasn't consistent work all the time. And this is where I think modern women paint this illusion of marriage as slavery, and they exaggerate sometimes the work that they do. And I'm not saying that they don't work, but it's just like you can segment these you can segment these jobs that you do. But all in all, I think it was a great video by the woman.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Chris Brick, shalom, shalom to you, my brother, shalom to you. Angela said some beautiful things. This could only be understood or even considered by a woman who is spiritually connected with Yah. And I'm assuming that is your intended audience. That is absolutely my intended audience, because I have no faith that this message is going to actually receive modern women today. It's unfortunate, but you also mentioned a worldly woman would or could never receive this because they are inherently selfish, self-absorbed, and self-focused. Just my thoughts, and I'm in total agreement with you, brother Mike. Grace and peace, bless you, my brother. Woman, they exaggerate. Trust, I know. Yeah, there is an exaggeration. I do believe. Again, for the sake of time, because we reached the hour mark, and I do gotta go back to work soon. If you guys would like this video, please like, subscribe. It does help. And also in the description, excuse me, there's also a link to James' channel as well, Enter Black Void. But I would like to just land the plane by saying that there is definitely a lot of benefits. Again, that's not to say that you have to. You don't have to partake in polygyny. I think the biggest thing is simply, like, for example, I'll even go this far, right? The Bible speaks about farming all the time. Can we all agree on that? Can we all agree that the Bible has a bunch of laws concerning agriculture, to the point where they say that if you have any type of agriculture, you're actually supposed to leave the edges for the widows and for the homeless and all this other stuff, right? There's a bunch of laws that concern agriculture. There's a bunch of proverbs that talk about agriculture. There's one that says, where there is no oxen, the crib is clean, but much strength comes by the strength of the ox. Now, which one of you have oxen? Which one of you have oxen? You see, now this is the thing that's so crazy. It's amazing how we could look at agriculture and we could say, oh, you could partake in agriculture if you want to, but you don't have to. But we don't take that same approach with polygyny. You see, these laws is simply a guide to tell you what you can and what you cannot do. So long as you stay within the guardrails, you're going to be safe on the road. If you want to hit the guardrail and flip over, then that's when you're going to be in danger, because now you're forcing something that should not be. Just stay in the lane. Stay in the lane. Stay within the guardrails, y'all. This is all we're saying. Again, you don't have to partake in it. But it's dangerous, I believe, when you preach in either extreme. If you say you have to be a polygynist, I think you're in error. And if you say you have to be a monogamist, you're in error. Simply stick to what the law actually is presenting us. It says that you can. And if you do, These are the guidelines. Don't diminish your first wife when it comes to food, clothing, and conjugal rights, duty of marriage. Don't diminish her in that area, right? Meaning that you have to be fair. They give you the guidelines. And then you articulated so beautifully, there's a verse that mentions in the Psalms where David says that, I will be satisfied. I'm paraphrasing. I will be satisfied when I awake in thy likeness, die as in the Most High. That's when he'll be satisfied. And you brought up the verse. It's so clear. The Most High said that he is literally married to Aholibah and Aholah, which represented Israel and Judah. If polygyny was so wicked, why would a holy Elohim even use a wicked analogy to show himself? Like, how does that make sense? Why would the Most High, as an analogy, relate himself as a rapist? Would he relate himself as a stealer, a robber? This is what I'm saying. These are the kind of things that doesn't make sense. Like, if this is the Most High describing himself, so he's going to use righteous examples that we can understand so that you can understand how he operates. He's not going to use polygyny to simply, he's going to use a wicked analogy to express how he operates. That doesn't even make sense. You have Angela Neighbors. While I was watching this live, I asked a young woman, total stranger, her thoughts on polygyny. And her first response was, hell no, I'm not sharing anything. You see, that's what it is, right? That's what it is.
Is this, I think, you know what? This is what I think. If the men truly practice this in righteousness, the whole family can be a blessing and they'll benefit. And once they see a prosperous, successful, polygynous family, more women will turn to it as a viable solution. Right now, a lot of women are just going to be single, or they're going to struggle, or, they're going to divorce good men, because we already see it happening in social media. Women are tired, or they fed up with, they don't want to be married, but there's nothing wrong with the man. Marriage. We're going to see plenty of that. We're going to see plenty of that. Like, I've seen it on YouTube where women are like literally crying. They want out the marriage, and they profess with their mouths that the man was perfect. They have everything they need, but it still wasn't enough. So we're still going to have these problems because it's the mindset of people that hasn't been shaped. But that's all I have to say. I think men, be honest, practice it with righteousness. Don't forget your creator, and be honest with the women, and choose women that actually are have the same understanding, that's equally yoked with you. It's not fair to be a polygynist and then you get a monogamous woman. That's not fair. If you're polygynist, go for polygynist. If you want one woman for yourself as a man, find one woman that's monogamous. That's it. It's easy. We don't need to complicate this.
Yeah. I'll end off by reading Brother Mike's comment. It says, I believe if women had a history of good examples in polygyny, there would be more considerations. I agree. I 100% agree. I mean, if they saw the righteous examples, and that kind of goes back to what you said. If there was righteous examples, if you went about it righteously, more women would be on board. Until then, you're not going to see a lot of women, agree to this because they don't have no real examples out there. And, again, I think the onus fundamentally is going to fall on us men. We have to be righteous as the head. We got to be righteous, right?
They don't see it. There's plenty of examples here in real life in other countries that actually work. There's many examples of the Bible that work. They just don't want to see it.
Well, and hey, that's a very good point too. I mean, you brought up, I love what you said earlier when you said that there's a bunch of places in Africa. You know what's amazing? You even mentioned Europeans, right? Mind you, they're the ones that created the concept of monogamy. But you have these wealthy politicians. They have multiple wives all the time. And then what it is, it gets scandalized though, right? Yeah, what was it, Bill Clinton? They're like, I never had sexual relations with that woman. Like, man, get out of here, bro. You already partook in polygyny, and because you got
Precisely.
caught, now
Precisely.
you wanna backpedal. No, look, these guys it's the fullness of hypocrisy because they already partake in it to their benefit, but they tell you now you have to be monogamous, and they know why. Because if you are monogamous, they know that naturally you can only go so far financially because that woman has a clock. There's only so much children that you could produce. Now, that's not to say one woman cannot produce many children. We have accounts, but that's very taxing on her body. So now you're gonna put a lot of strain on this one woman to produce all these children for you. You're gonna risk her health all because you want to have, you want to have all these children. Look, it's not conducive to that woman. I'm gonna give you the final word, and I really do gotta go. Go ahead.
Okay. The final word. Polygyny can reduce prostitution and it can reduce sexual trafficking. But y'all not ready for that conversation though. I'll leave that for another time.
That's powerful. All right, that's a whole nother conversation. Prostitution. Anyway, you guys, again, I appreciate you guys coming with us during the live. If you guys did like the video, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Please, once again, go over to Enter Black Void James's channel. It's in the description. Please subscribe to his channel as well. And again, we want to just have these conversations more often, just to be an intelligent people. You know what I'm saying? Stimulate some thought in this community. Anyway, with that being said, Nick over and out. The message sent. Jesus is King, y'all. Shalom, shalom.